Welcome back to the Warehouse Podcast. I'm Tyler.
I'm Jesse.
And I'm Eli.
And we are coming to you in the middle of an Orioles 11-game losing streak. Who knows how long it'll go by the time you actually hear this episode. But it's been a rough month so far, guys.
Yeah, me wearing my Baltimore Orioles shirt today wasn't enough for us to get a win. So
shocking.
Yeah.
For today's game, the Orioles had been outscored by 65 runs through the first 12 games in August. So
that's not
pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, I think I was feeling more optimistic about the Orioles in the second half because they were pretty good out of the All-Star break. And August, I think, has been their worst month so far. I mean, they're 1-12 or something. 1-11. Yeah.
It's a pretty bad.
Today makes 12. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's a pretty bad winning percentage.
Yeah. It's not going to get the job done come postseason time, I don't think.
Right. No.
Hey, who's the wild card game starter for us?
I know. I just go get Joe Saunders again, see what he can do. Even right now, he might be better than some of the guys we're trotting out there at the moment.
Rotation.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I guess we'll just get into it because there's enough to talk about this week. And the big news actually is something that happened away from the field. Chris Davis, kind of out of nowhere, announced that he is retiring from the game of baseball. Apparently, he's got a hip issue that's degenerative. He was attempting to rehab it, and it just was not going well, and it wasn't responding to treatments or anything else. So he has called it quits. Don't get too excited. He is going to get all of that money that the Orioles guaranteed to him. It's just going to be paid out a little bit differently. And he's not going to get all of it next year, or not all of it. I'm sorry. He's not going to get his entire salary for next year during next year. He'll get it over the next several years. It's all very complicated. Jesse, go ahead. What do you want to say?
I was just going to say this might be a little frustrating to Oriole fans listening to this, but I still want him to get all of his money.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, right.
We're a pro-labor podcast here.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So even though, the deal never should have been signed in the first place and everything, the Orioles were crazy to sign that contract. We still want him to get all the money. So.
Absolutely. And I think the restructuring helps the Orioles from, just straight up having cash on hand and also just salary cap, soft cap stuff. I don't know. They're going to get a lot of it, I'm sure, paid by insurance companies anyway. So don't cry for the Orioles. They're doing just fine, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I was kind of surprised when this came down. I think we all had sort of thought maybe he had played his last game for the Orioles, but I wasn't thinking it was going to happen in this fashion. Eli, what were your thoughts when you saw this news kind of come across the crawl there?
I was just kind of stunned, honestly. I think that this is a super interesting thing for Orioles fans because now you have to just take a stop and look back. You can't exist in the Chris Davis sucks and we're just constantly mad at him. He's ruining the team. You can't be in that position anymore because he is gone, and now you have to just kind of take a step back and consider, okay, what does he actually mean to the Orioles now? And the fact of the matter is, it's pretty easily argued that his 2013 season was the best offensive season by an Orioles player ever. He put up over 7 WAR. I think it was 7.9 WAR as a first baseman, which is just unheard of
without playing much defense.
Right. Although he was a borderline Gold Glove candidate back in the day.
That's true.
It's hard to remember because he sucks so bad every time we saw him out there. But yeah, you have to, kind of take a step back and remember what he really did mean to the good Orioles teams at the beginning of the 2010s. He was a feared bat. He had 2 40 home run seasons. And you got to respect that. But now it's given the rest of his career, how do we look back at Chris Davis? Dan Connolly wrote a really interesting piece for The Athletic, and he basically ended with, I don't know. And I also don't know. But it's a super interesting question. And now it's can you still hold this hatred for the dude, even though he, is clearly just hurting and is miserable? At all points, I'm sure Chris Davis wanted to be a good player. I don't think he ever stopped being interested in baseball, stopped wanting to win. I remember the Jim Palmer stuff saying he wasn't working with Scott Coolball over the winter and everything. And that may be true, but he wanted to perform. And so you look at all of this and it's kind of difficult to just, I don't know, think about, what do I think about this guy now that he's not this hindrance on the Orioles? And yeah, I still don't know.
Yeah, I think I saw somebody tweet something like this, but I just went on Baseball Reference and kind of found the same numbers. So I apologize for not giving credit here. But from 2012 through 2016, Chris Davis had a total WAR of 17.8 over, that's 5 seasons. So, about 3 to 4 WAR per year. Really good. But his total career WAR is only 11.9. So it's 6 less than that, because of just how awful 2017 through the end of his career was. So that kind of gives you the dichotomy of Chris Davis's career. Jesse, do you kind of want to hop in and maybe give your thoughts on Davis retiring, or maybe even what his legacy is?
Right. So, I mean, I really don't want it. If the two halves of his career were flipped and reversed, right, people would be viewing him entirely differently. He would be going out in great fashion. Everybody would be excited. We'd be throwing him a parade. I mean, the reverse career is kind of like David Ortiz, right? David Ortiz was really bad at the beginning with the Twins, and then he kind of really turned it around and was obviously, unfortunately, a really good Red Sox player. So
David Ortiz was not that bad with the Twins, though.
No,
okay, right.
True. He was okay.
He was not historically bad like Davis was.
We would have loved for Chris Davis to have been the Minnesota Twins David Ortiz.
Okay. So, yeah, but in any case, so I think it's important to keep in mind, there's a recency bias happening, right, for the Orioles and Oriole fans. And it is necessary to underscore Davis's involvement in the really good Oriole teams. We would never have made the ALCS probably without Chris Davis on that team where we lost to the Royals.
Although he was suspended for PEDs.
That's
right.
true. That's true.
Adderall.
That is true.
Adderall, that's
true. We would not have been we won the most games in a 5-year span, and Davis obviously had a large role contributing to that, right? So he was definitely, nobody should forget how amazing a player he was, or how amazing a hitter he was in particular, when the Orioles were winning. In terms of the news being like shocking or surprising, I mean, it could be a little surprising from the perspective that Davis wasn't really on our radar. So Chris Davis news came as a surprise. But you had the feeling somebody who really like thought about the situation, this is a very, I feel like, reasonable outcome of the current situation and the current conditions that were happening. The Orioles probably came to him and they were like, we can't afford to have you on the roster anymore. Like, we're gonna probably have to do something, either, we don't know when it'll be necessarily, but, and we have this plan, you'll make all your money, you could go out on good terms, just say you retire, and we can both move forward. The Orioles and Chris Davis are aware of the current situation and are aware, probably, I think, that he's never going to be on a major league. He's never going to be on the field again. So this is a good outcome for all parties involved. The Orioles don't look bad, to whatever extent they would look bad for releasing him at this point. They wouldn't really look that bad, but some people might say, oh, well, he was such a great player, like, honor him, whatever, don't do him like that, I guess. I mean, no Oriole fans, I don't think, would be saying that.
No, I
at
think
this
very
point.
few people.
But yeah, so it's just a good resolution to a really tough situation for all parties, and everybody can move forward. But yeah, I mean, I get the current frustration with Davis being really bad. The one thing I would say about Eli's comments is, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that there was, in general, it is possible that there was a lack of effort. When you are that bad, I think it does raise eyebrows. Like, how did you get to be that bad? I'm definitely not saying it definitely was, and I don't want everyone to view him as a lazy player or anything like that. I'm not saying that, but I think it should legitimately raise a question, and nobody on the outside will know the answer. Only his teammates or the coaches will really have the answer to that, or maybe Jim Palmer. But so I don't know. But I think people can kind of have that in the back of their mind, and I think that is fine and that is acceptable. But I also want people to understand that the time period that he was bad, what fortunately for the Orioles, was not at a critical time for the Orioles. I mean, we were losing really badly with a good or with a terrible Chris Davis on the team. So anywhere
not
from
in like 2017.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's true.
And even 2018, like, I mean, they ended up really bad, but
right.
It's also because Buck Showalter just kept putting him in the lineup every day.
Right.
I mean, if he's better, maybe the team doesn't lose 47 games. Maybe doesn't win 47 games.
Right.
And
but we're not making a playoff push at that point.
No.
So I mean, it's not like the worst part happened like during the ALCS, and like that's kind of what I'm trying to say. So I hope that alleviates some of the frustration and anger a little bit, that it obviously cost us, the Orioles organization, resources that could have been redirected, etc. Maybe the rebuild wouldn't take this long if things had gone differently with that. Don't get me wrong, all that is true, but specifically for him, his bad years didn't specifically and directly cost us a World Series. You can't argue something like that.
No, I mean, you guys have kind of touched on everything as far as play on the field. He was really, really good. One of the best hitters in baseball for a 5-year stretch there, which is totally true. And there's been enough documented about all the stuff he did off the field, especially him and his wife being involved in University of Maryland's medical system,
right.
Especially to the pediatrics wing of the hospital. Tons of donations, tons of time spent with patients and families. And, that stuff is important too, as far as ingratiating yourself in the community of Baltimore.
And I have to say, how disrespectful of us to not acknowledge that and to not talk about him as a person. We're just talking about him as this baseball player, right? But that's actually very true. And actually, one of the this is just a little side note. They obviously, you hear the news, you see him. But I actually have one of the kids that I used to work with at my old rec center in Baltimore. One time, like, she came and showed me a picture of her and Chris Davis together. So I definitely think there is like something to that he was particularly involved in the community more than the routine obligation of what most Major League Baseball players have.
Yeah, I mean, and the guy made a lot of money, and I think he put a lot of that right back into Baltimore, which is huge. I think his wife is a nurse. I'm married to a nurse. Your your mom is a nurse.
Correct. Yeah.
So there's that connection too, which is nice. No, and I never had a poor interaction with Chris Davis. I don't know of too many people that did, apart from Brandon Hyde in the dugout that one time a couple of years ago. But apart from that, like, he seemed like a good guy who just was really struggling on the field the last couple of years. And
I got an autograph from him one time, and he was nice, so
Okay.
I also remember as soon as he got suspended, he like helped somebody flip a car on his way home from the baseball game. There was an overturned car, and he stopped by and helped flip it.
He would be the guy that you would want to help flip
for sure.
Car,
6'5", 240 or whatever he is. Yeah.
So, I mean, this kind of comes to like the big question that I've seen people kind of knocking around on Twitter is Chris Davis an Orioles team Hall of Famer? I say yes.
I say
Definitely.
yes too.
Eli. Oh,
I don't know.
oh my God.
I mean, like, don't get me wrong, his numbers are there, like in terms of home runs, in terms of RBIs, in terms of like all sorts of stuff. But yeah, this is just so sour that I don't know if the Orioles will be able to do it. Whether I think he is, God, I don't know. I said it like the first time I started talking on this topic. I don't know where I stand on all this.
Would
I,
Mike? Oh, go ahead.
I can both fully acknowledge that he was a really, really phenomenal player and an integral part of like last good Orioles team, while simultaneously acknowledging that he's been terrible, just
But
outright terrible.
If his career was reversed, though, I think you would say automatically, yes, he's an Oriole Hall of Famer.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if his career was reversed, then he starts getting good at like 27 years old. That's kind of how a lot of players develop. This time he like at 27 years old, just all of a sudden, couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
I don't know. It wasn't 27. It was like 31.
Was he that old?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
In 2016, he was 30.
Because
that brings up a whole nother element of like the contract where they're giving him the contract after 30, but whatever.
That is crazy.
We don't have to get into that.
We did
or at 30, something like that. Sorry,
right.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say we did get him in a trade from the Rangers for I think Koji Uehara,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, it's very interesting, for people to think about, like, do you take the whole package of Chris Davis or do you, so.
And Tommy Hunter.
Yeah. Right. And Tommy Hunter. Hey, he was a nice bullpen piece.
He was.
Okay.
And he came back again for a second stint with the Orioles. It didn't last that long.
That was a very good trade for us.
It was.
Just the
and
signing,
it was just like a half
afterwards,
season of Koji or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
It was.
But then Koji went to Boston and was incredible. So
yeah, it sucked.
That was a bummer.
I
don't know. That. I mean, people are going to go back and forth about the Chris Davis stuff. I think eventually all of like the key guys from that era are going to get in. JJ Hardy just got in.
Right.
Davis will get in. I think, you got to put Adam Jones. Manny Machado, I think, is going to be the one that's going to be a little dicey because he was clearly awesome, but then he left so early in his career. But that's the one I think is going to be more questionable than Chris Davis.
Yeah,
I feel if we have BJ Surhoff in the Orioles Hall of Fame, like Machado should be in.
I agree.
So I guess then I'll say, like, if the question is, does Chris Davis eventually get in? I think yes. Do I think that Chris Davis gets in anytime in the next 10, 15 years? I don't think so.
When people can remember this this part of his
I think there will have to be a little bit of a
cooling off period for Oriole fans.
All right,
you roll him into the stadium a couple times, he waves, he signs some autographs. Roll him back out without a word.
I think it could be very similar to the Mike Messina situation, where Messina was obviously great the whole time, but then he goes to the Yankees, and in the mind of Orioles fans, that marks you a little bit. But he did eventually get in, so there's that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move away from that, and let's talk about some National Baseball writers dumping on the Orioles all week.
Hey.
Because this kind of started last week, and it started with Ken Rosenthal on The Athletic wrote a story on he wrote it and it got posted on August 9th, which I think was just a couple days after our last podcast was posted, where basically Rosenthal compares Mike Elias to the San Francisco Giants general manager, Farhan Zaidi. They were both hired around the same time in 2018, and now obviously the Orioles are still terrible 3+ years later. Whereas Zaidi's Giants are leading arguably one of the best divisions in baseball. And Rosenthal goes on to explain the differences there, but people on Twitter flipped out a little bit, I would say, to be kind. Then a couple days later, Buster Olney from ESPN tweeted, "The Orioles are on pace to lose 106 games this season, and in their previous 2 full seasons, they lost 115 and 108 games in 2018 and 2019. This is unprecedented in AL history." That's an important qualifier. When the players union cites non-competitive behavior, the Orioles could be exhibit A. It's just wrong. And then today, as we record this on August 15th, Britt Giroli, who is currently with The Athletic, but was formerly the Orioles beat reporter for MLB.com, tweeted, "It's amazing how many fans are okay with their team being purposely bad for 4 to 7 years. Maybe Mike Elias is laying groundwork for a run as long and successful as Houston, maybe not. Either way, O's are on pace for third 100 loss season in 4 years, last done when they were the St. Louis Browns." Then in a second tweet, she goes, "Anyways, this probably could have been a column and maybe it will be at some point. I just think Oriole fans are great and deserve a better product." So we got a lot there. We all were kind of texting about the Rosenthal piece a few days ago. And Eli, you sort of have an opposite opinion of it to me. So do you maybe kind of want to lay out your opinion on the Rosenthal piece, or how do you want to go about this?
Yeah, I guess the best thing I'll say is that I think that it was a direct comparison of two people in very different situations. And while he kind of threw out the disclaimer, but then still proceeded to make a direct connection between the two for the entire rest of the article.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the only thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I do think that, like, if you're trying to illustrate the point of what Farhan Zaidi has done with the Giants, it's undeniably brilliant. You know, he's been incredible. He's found some super diamond in the rough, under the radar pieces. Jesse and I were actually just talking about Lamont Wade Jr. He went to St. Paul's. I played against him in high school, all this stuff. He's a stud. He's hit 15 home runs for him, and they traded Sean Anderson for him, who clearly did not last with the Twins, then made his way over to us and has just been bouncing around and isn't really worth anything. So, points like that are obviously correct, in saying that Zaidi has done an incredible job with the Giants. That being said, the Giants have also just kind of run into some dumb luck this year with all of a sudden Buster Posey is playing his 2012 to 2014 MVP levels. Evan Longoria was playing well.
Gossman.
Right. Yeah, Gossman's been incredible. And, some of that is a credit to them, and a lot of it is not also. It's these guys who were known quantities, and they were just saddled with the contract when Zaidi came in. Nobody looked at Evan Longoria and Buster Posey and their contracts sitting and weighing down the Giants as a benefit to the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
There was no way to argue that when Zaidi came in. And so the fact that the Giants have, 70 plus wins and are leading that division is partially just
dumb luck.
It's partially just recourse from that dumb luck. And I am, again, I'm not trying to take anything away from Zaidi, but the Orioles don't have any situation like that, right? Chris Davis did not suddenly rebound to become a really good player again. No. But so, yeah, I think the other big discrepancy is that Elias's directive has clearly been to just build a pipeline, build the minor league system, and that'll be what part of our whole rest of this discussion is about as well. But I think that they had different directives, and the Giants are not weighed down by 100 million in guaranteed contracts a year the way that the Orioles are. I'm not saying that the Orioles are a small market team, because that's just not true. We're a mid-market team. Mm-hmm. But the Giants have some muscle. We're not saddled down by that. They could sign Kevin Gossman to I think he got the
qualifying
offer. Yeah. Which is a $19 million deal this year. So there's no way to say that. I don't know. It's just not a perfect direct comparison. And you can throw things out like Elias has not made as many waiver claims and has not been as successful with those waiver claims as Zaidi has. And those are valid points. But I think they're just focused on different facets of the organizations right now. And that was my only qualm with it.
Yeah. And I think my opinion on it was just that I guess I was viewing the use of the Orioles a little bit as a literary device and a comparison to be this is sort of what the expectation in Major League Baseball has become when you become a GM for a team that's, hit bottom, is you're going to be bad for a while. You're going to accumulate draft picks. and eventually it'll work out. Whereas Zahidi has come in, kind of hit the ground running, and put together a competitive team right away. But I get where you're coming from. A lot of people, a lot of fans have kind of reacted similarly to that and said, and basically mentioned to Rosenthal a bunch of times, saying like the situations are polar opposites. Like Rosenthal, or I'm sorry, Elias came in and the cupboards were bare. The prospects were not there. The major league team was torn apart to salvage what they could from the 2018 season, all by his predecessor. Whereas Edie came in with an infrastructure in place and some talent already in place at the major league level, and just sort of got a little lucky, and also, did make some savvy moves for sure. Jesse, I guess I'll go to you though. Do you think like the criticism, and you don't have to pick, any specific story, but do you think like this kind of criticism coming from the national outlets is a fair thing to do to the Orioles, given their current situation?
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, we've talked about this for a bit, but yeah, I mean, my thing, I guess, is that we can understand how a rebuild is going to work. The investment on the major league level, just like Eli was kind of alluding to, just has not been there, and that is really what has allowed the 100 season losses to continue over and over, and will continue this year. Is the investment on the major league level. Yes, in 2018, the Orioles front office was caught off guard. Nobody would have thought we would have been that bad. But every year after that, it was expected that we were going to be a 100 loss team, and we embraced it, and the front office embraced it. And as much as Elias says to the fans, yes, the major league team isn't where we want it to be right now, he's not going to lift a finger to try to address it or to fix it, if it costs him any money in the short term, or the Orioles organization in the short term. It's not his personal money. I don't want anyone to think that. But so it's not, if it's going to hurt the Orioles organization 1% to make the team, or 0.005% to make the team a little better, just so we can win 65 games or 70 games possibly, he's not going to try to make that effort and put that effort in to make sure that doesn't happen. The thing is, the other thing about this whole thing that I think fans don't really like, Brit Giroli was kind of talking about how these fans just accept this. The thing is, she talked about how they're laying the groundwork for a better team. Maybe they will be a good team, maybe not. None of this is guaranteed, right? None of the 100 win, we're not guaranteed a few 100 win seasons just because we took a few 100 loss seasons. No, things could go really wrong. Rodriguez could get hurt, Adley could get hurt, some cornerstones could be missing, and we'll probably be better than this. But we might only be a 500 team or a slightly above 500 team. Yeah, and the idea is that theoretically, right, the Orioles kind of think, okay, we do this one time for a few years, right, and then hopefully we have a good enough organization where we're like the Rays, and we basically never have to do it again. That's the thought, and that's the idea, at least from a theoretical perspective. But yeah, just, I mean, the fact of the matter is none of that is guaranteed. And are the Orioles fans okay undergoing 500 loss seasons in a row if it leads to some 86 win teams and some 83 win teams, and maybe a wild card appearance, and then back to 78 wins and 80 wins, right? So that's really the thing that kind of has to be kept in mind about this, is the Oriole fans are acting like it's destined to happen. We're destined to soon win a World Series, or we're destined to soon be competitive for multiple years, and they're clinging on to this hope. And definitely I have that hope too. And there's a lot to be encouraged about from an organizational perspective, but just a few injuries here and there could really derail a lot of what Oriole fans hope to happen. and that's all it would take, and that's not very much.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. There's definitely like two sides to the fandom. Kind of, they're talking to each other, but I feel like they're not totally understanding each other. And the part I'm definitely on is sort of like the person that is bought into the rebuild for sure, and I'm only bought in because it's pretty obvious what the plan was going to be the whole time. When you got Elias from the Astros, we knew it was going to be a couple rough years, and then we were going to bounce back. And the Astros won a World Series, and they've been really, really good for several years now, and that'd be great. I would totally take a couple hundred lost seasons in exchange for that. But we're definitely getting to the point, and we've talked about this on the show before. We're definitely getting to the point where we've endured that. Now let's turn it around a little bit. Now, 2018 does not count. It sucks. It was really not fun to go through, but Elias was not here for 2018. That was kind of an anomaly. You kind of have to start the ticker at 2019. So now we've got 2019, 2020, 2021 is really rough. I think we do, as a fan base, deserve to start seeing that corner being turned in 2022. And if we don't see it, I'm not saying the Orioles are going to be a playoff contender next year, but next year is the year where Adley Rutschman is going to be up. Grayson Rodriguez is going to be up. Probably a couple other prospects that are somewhat less interesting, but still valuable. That's where you want to start to see like those 100 loss seasons disappear, and we start to go towards postseason, possibilities, So yeah, I think that the welcome, that the honeymoon period is about to run its course, and that's fine. I think this is natural, and this is where it's going to be. And if we see another disastrous season in 2022, then there start to be some more serious questions asked of Elias, because while yes, he's definitely done some good things behind the scenes as far as improving the pipeline, the facility in the Dominican Republic, all that stuff is great. At the end of the day, it's an entertainment product, and the product is Major League Baseball, and the Orioles for 3 years, have been an unwatchable Major League product. So yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at.
The other thing I want to add is that, you talk about 22 as the time where we kind of start to turn the table. And I think what's disappointing is after the success that we had last year, like the 25-35 record that the Orioles had last year, if you extrapolate that out to a 162 game season, is like 67.5 wins. And, that's a fairly respectable season. So I think that the issue arises when you see that we've had a pretty drastic regression from that point. This current Orioles team is nowhere close to a 67-70 win team. Right. That's just not who we are. And, we're at that point, but simultaneously we've gotten Trey Mancini back in the lineup, who is a definite addition. He's like our best hitter besides Cedric Mullins. And then we've got Cedric Mullins, a like all-world player who was expected to be absolutely nothing. We were really looking for, I was coming into this year expecting next to no production out of center field whatsoever. It was going to be some rotation of, Austin Hayes will jump in, Cedric Mullins will jump in, and it'll just kind of like be whatever it is. That's not how it's gone at all. And so we've gotten these huge assets added to our lineup and have seen substantial regression from last year. And I think that's really where the problem arises. And then on top of that, on this pod, we talked about before the season and even into the season, what we were excited about in terms of, we were going to see Mike Baumann come up, we were going to see XYZ. And it's just been this like little rotation of Keegan Aiken and Alex Wells just like popping in and out whenever they can. And Bruce Zimmerman has done a good job and has been hurt. That's unfortunate. But I don't know, we haven't seen the rotation of a lot of these AAA guys that we expected to be ready this year. And, if you're not going to have those AAA guys, we expected we would have some stability in the rotation just through depth, just because we had 5 guys chomping at the bit at AAA that were ready to rock. And, because of that, like the minimal actual major league level investments made a little bit more sense. We were like, all right, Matt Harvey, Felix Hernandez, and then, John Means in a rotation of 5 guys to fill out the last 2 spots. And that made a lot of sense, but that hasn't been what it is. Right. I mean, part of that is because Keegan Aiken and Dean Kramer have been so bad, but Aiken's still up there. You know, and we haven't tried to work in a Mike Bauman. I mean, he's the one that, like, I understand he got hurt, but he's back and he's pitching well, and it's like the Orioles are so unbelievably bad right now. Where is this guy? So it just, I am consistently frustrated just by the lack of, I don't know, the lack of anything changing. And I don't want to sound like just a bitter fan who's like disillusioned with the rebuild. Again, I get it, but you know, we have totally revamped our system, and everything that we revamped, like that we needed to do to revamp our system, like the Grayson Rodriguez, the Adley Rutschman, DL Hall, like all of these guys were already in place at the beginning of this year, right? The Orioles draft, or like the Orioles minor leagues, was not revamped by the 2021 draft. Colton Cowser is going to be wonderful, Reed Trimble, all these, whatever, that's fine. But we were not redefined by this draft whatsoever. We had all of that improvement in place already before the 2022 or before the 2021 season. And so it made some sense that we could start to take a step forward. Like the draft that we have next year is not contributing to our next good Orioles team. Maybe the back end of it, but like you cannot argue that this terrible team right now, you know, who's like draft
right.
that whose draft implications are going to be 7 years down the road.
Right.
You can't argue that that's like contributing to the rebuild. This is not the rebuild right now. The rebuild was 18, 19, 20. And you know, we are still developing that talent. We are still doing XYZ, but like, God, just throw $5 million down on like two pretty bad pitchers to stabilize something, because I don't know. We're so unbelievably bad. That's it. and I get that we needed to be, but it genuinely is hard to watch. And this is coming from somebody who watches the Orioles religiously, just about every game, spends enough time and energy to do a podcast once a week or so. And I mean, it's a frustrating product. And I've never like been at a point where I've been frustrated like this, you know, throughout the other years of the rebuild, throughout even 2018, when we were so unbelievably bad. I didn't feel like this. I wasn't frustrated with it because I understood it. And I still I understand a little bit, but again, our rebuild, the legwork that needed to be put in has already been done. And now it's the time to start laying groundwork for the next good team that is like, even just like giving people a situation in which to perform, and like bringing in a couple people to just make the team feel like you care even the slightest bit. That's what I'm talking about. It's a sub $10 million investment at the major league level is what I'm advocating for.
I agree, Eli. And to Tyler's point, you know, he was talking about having Adley come up next year and Grayson Rodriguez. Yes, obviously those are two giant pieces that Baltimore fans are salivating over having up at the major league level. I don't want to forget about the guys that we have at the current major league level that, in my mind, these should be guys that are kind of having our kind of pieces that we should be starting to turn the corner with, right? Like Eli said, we have Mullins. We also have Mountcastle. We have John Means. We have Anthony Santander. DJ Stewart is obviously doing really badly right now, but he was kind of one of the guys too that like this could be a piece to help us turn the corner, right? A potential piece, right? So we have these pieces in place. Having Mullins and Santander and Mountcastle plus Mancini, like those are legitimate players. Anthony Santander obviously has had kind of a rough year. He's starting to turn it around, hopefully a little bit, right? But these are like some legitimate players. It's not like, you know, I'm trying to think of a good comparison, but it's not like having Rio Ruiz's, you know, everywhere all over the field. We don't have 9 Rio Ruiz's playing, right?
You picked the hardest name to pluralize.
Thank goodness.
Sorry. Yeah, right. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, it's not like we are deficient at every single position and it's just a disaster, right? No, we have 4 solid pieces that should, we should be able to build off of, see some improvement with, and hopefully avoid 100 losses with that sort of core, even without Adley, even without Grayson Rodriguez and DL Hall.
What's the pitcher? The pitching is atrocious. The offense is
Right.
like fine. I mean, it's not good, but it's like middling. Like the Orioles, I think if for the longest time, the Orioles had scored more runs than the Yankees had.
Right.
And I think they've still scored more than the Mets have. And the Mets have some bats in that lineup. I mean, the Orioles offense is like a passable major league offense. It's that the pitching staff is a complete disaster. And that's what's frustrating. And we've talked about this, is that you can't, and I don't think we mentioned on the show, but we were talking before, is like sometimes there's a team where it's like, oh, it's a talented team, but they have injuries, or, last year COVID would have been a good explanation for like the Marlins to fall apart, although they didn't. They went to the playoffs, but like stuff like that happens. The Orioles pitching staff being bad is the most predictable thing to happen in Major League Baseball this year, because it was
We all knew.
Yeah,
Right.
we were cracking jokes about it from months before the season started. Yeah.
right. And part of it is, I guess there's an element of some misfortune in terms of how poor the young guys have been. And you would hope one or two of them would have been at least like passable. And Zimmerman has been, but he's been hurt half the year, and that hasn't happened. And that's a whole nother discussion as far as like development and what's going on there. But yeah, I mean, the pitching staff, it's just, this can kind of bleed into like sort of the next talking point we wanted to get into, which is like the point made in Rosenthal's piece is that Zahidi has done so many more like of these little moves that have worked out, and Elias really hasn't. So what can Mike Elias do differently? What could he have done differently, I guess, up to this point? That's kind of been the question asked of some of these reporters, is like, what could he have done differently? And I'm not totally sure, but I think one thing he definitely could have done this past offseason is bought a couple pitchers, bought 2 major league caliber pitchers to put in the rotation alongside John Means. Now, everybody will say, well, how can we guarantee that, pitcher X would have come to the Orioles? We can't guarantee it, but if you give them $2 million more than the next closest bidder, they're probably going to come. You know what I mean? So it's just, that's the type of stuff I think he could have done more with. Lamont Wade is a very good example of, the Giants got him for nothing. The Orioles could have gotten him for nothing. That's not all those moves work out, but I just think Elias could take a few more chances, spend a little bit more money if he's allowed to. Again, I don't know what his decision-making is there, but I don't know, just like do some things a little more interesting to reinforce such obvious deficiencies. Again, I don't think this year was expecting 100 wins, but maybe not 110 losses, which is what they're on pace for. They're on pace for like 112 losses, which is, to me, that's not acceptable. That's not a major league quality team. That's not something you can put on the field and expect people to pay money to go see.
Well, and again, that 112 losses is with a Cedric Mullins playing at this all-world level.
Yeah.
The team that they were stepping into this season with, like, okay, maybe Maikel Franco is like moderately better. Maybe John Means stays healthy. But, the team that they were stepping in with, they knew this was going to happen. And that team is probably 115 loss team, 120 loss team. If Cedric Mullins is not on this team, like they're like the entire roster, or if the current Cedric Mullins was Cedric Mullins from last year, the current roster is like totally devoid of redeemable
any life. Life.
That's fair.
I know.
Yeah, and
fair.
Yeah.
So
It's
I mean,
rough.
It is. Jess, did you want to make a point there?
Yeah. I forgot what it was.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that kind of brings us into like this coming off season. And, we don't have to get too deep into this because I'm sure we will talk about this in September and October, but like, what is your hope for maybe this coming off season for something Elias can do? It doesn't have to be like a specific move. It's kind of become a meme online to talk about them signing Carlos Correa. That might be a little bit of a leap, but like, what can Mike Elias maybe do this offseason to kind of show, hey, I get the frustration, and yes, I want to start winning too. So these are some of the moves I'm going to make to kind of show the fans we're moving in the right direction. Anything like come to mind, Jesse? Maybe do you want to take that one first?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing, kind of like you mentioned, is just a couple veteran starting pitchers to throw in there. I just think, like you're saying, that would just make such a tremendous difference to the Orioles situation. Like guys like Andrew Kashner, right? It would be perfect,
That's the
right?
perfect
So
example. Yeah, that's the
yeah,
perfect example.
yeah. And two Andrew Kashners in the rotation would be a less than $10 million investment, like Eli was saying. It would probably come out to 6 or 7 or 8 million, and we would have something in the rotation every single game we go into. We expect the bullpen to be in the game by the 5th inning, and it's just, at least if you have a couple guys like Andrew Kashner, you could be like, okay, well, the bullpen today will only have to go 3 or 4, and that's a little better, even though that's still not great. But yeah, I think the rotation is the biggest thing. I think we could do a little more. Like right now, we have Urias, and maybe he is just going to be the shortstop, but I think a little more like flexibility just in how the roster is constructed. Having Mancini and Mountcastle on the team kind of makes things a little difficult from that respect, but having a little more roster flexibility, having guys like Jorge Mateo, who can play multiple positions, I think is also going to be really useful. And that way you can kind of have competent players at every position, and then just kind of move guys around when guys get hurt and stuff like that. And I think that's really important. If we had, more guys like this, we wouldn't have had to, have Rio Ruiz playing second base nonstop, right? If we had more kind of flexibility and more, guys that could play multiple positions and that kind of thing. So I think those are the two main priorities. And then obviously integrating the cornerstone pieces to the major league level in the right way. And obviously that is going to be very important too, and trying to provide a good context for them to play in.
Mm-hmm. Eli, do you kind of have similar sentiments or any different thoughts?
Yeah, I will say honestly, I've just been looking at this year's free agents, trying to cue in on a pitcher that I think fits.
Mm-hmm.
I want Martin Perez.
Oh, interesting.
He is not a good pitcher, but he's all right, and he's used to pitching in the AL East. He's been with Boston, and I think that guy makes a lot of sense, and he'd be pretty cheap. So
yeah,
that was all I wanted to throw out there. I'm calling it right here, right now. The Orioles signed Martin Perez this year.
Wow, big prediction. Mark it down.
There's a 95% chance I'm wrong, but
oh, absolutely. But no, I think that's a good shout. A guy with like an ERA a little bit under 5, but has thrown over 100 innings like a handful of times.
There's some Mark Minor. There's a Drew Smiley.
Those guys are going to make more money. Mike Minor's been,
yeah,
he's been good.
He has been good.
Yeah, Mike Minor's been really good.
Oh,
and Drew Smiley, yeah, he's good.
Yeah, we could do a Colin McHugh. He's been a swingman, but he would get a full-time starting job on our team.
We could get Alex Cobb back.
Oh, name something more appetizing than Alex Cobb.
Yeah,
I
like that. We could, yeah.
Don't get me wrong, having these guys on the team are not particularly inspiring, right?
No.
I don't want Oriole fans to get confused, but it would help the bullpen out a lot.
Well, yeah, help the bullpen out. And, you talk about protecting your young pitchers and stuff. Like, instead of yo-yoing them between minors and majors, like they've kind of done with Alex Wells. And like now they've got the weird thing where they've got the I forget what it's called, but on away games, it's like the whole like 5-man crew that's with them, the travel squad or whatever. That's a whole other thing. Taxi squad. Yeah, that's a whole other thing where they're not pitching in real games because they're on the road with you. Like, get a starter that can just stay in the big leagues all year. Like, that's it. It's not that complicated. So yeah, but we'll touch on that again after the season, because that'll be, the Orioles, I don't think you're going to the playoffs. I don't think mathematically they've been eliminated just yet, but I think we're probably getting close if we're not there already. So we'll see. But the Orioles did make a move since our last podcast, and it was kind of an exciting one. They claimed Jorge Mateo, utility player off waivers from the San Diego Padres. This is a guy who was a top 100 type of prospect. He's 26 years old now. He's out of options, but he does have MLB experience all over the field. Second base, shortstop, third base, left field, center field, right field. He has already played second, short, and third for the Orioles since coming. Guys, I mean, what are your thoughts on the move for Mateo, and sort of what are your expectations? Eli, maybe I'll go to you first.
Yeah, I just want to say him coming in and hitting a triple in his first game and us really getting to see him, turn on the jets. I mean, what's so incredible about this guy is he is literally in the 100th percentile for sprint speed in the MLB. I mean, he's just electrically fast. We've seen him, just hit a regular single, steal a couple bases. I mean, you are able to see the impact that speed can have on the game when he's in there. They were just talking on the broadcast today. I was listening to the radio. Jeff Arnold was talking, he was ranging up the middle and made this play, and he couldn't quite, throw the guy out at first, but he was like, you just see him getting to these balls across the infield that other people don't get to, he's just unbelievably fast. I don't know, but for my expectations out of him, I think he's the quintessential perfect bench piece. He can play a lot of different positions. He can hit I don't know, not very well, but at an adequate level. And he's still 26, so he could potentially develop a little bit more. They say he's got a pretty substantial amount of pop, actually. They were saying his big draw that made him a top 100 prospect was the speed and power combo. Unfortunately, he just doesn't I don't know, he doesn't hit the ball very often. So yeah, but he's the perfect bench piece because he plays pretty well in the field, all over the field. He's super fast if you need a pinch runner late in the game. I think he will be a part of the Orioles for a long time. He's the type of guy that it doesn't really feel like there's any reason to get rid of him. And even if he is not hitting the ball that well, you'll cycle guys in front of him, but I think he's just about as good of a bench piece as there is in the MLB.
Yeah, I went to one game since he's been here. It's actually the only game I've been to this year. And he hit a double and then stole third base. And I think that was the game where he recorded the sprint that is now the fastest sprint in Major League Baseball this year.
Oh, I missed that.
I think because he eclipsed, I don't know who was ahead of him. Might have been not Byron Buxton, maybe Byron Buxton. I'm not sure.
Billy Hamilton or something. I don't know.
I think Billy Hamilton's dropped down a couple rungs. I know LeCastro is really fast, although he's been hurt for most of the year. But I don't know. Whatever it was the fastest sprint of the year. And yeah, I mean, really exciting. Jesse, do you have any thoughts on Mateo?
Oh, I didn't realize it was of this year. I thought it was. Yeah, I see. Okay,
of this year, yeah.
Yeah, Billy Hamilton is not nearly as fast as he once was. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So no, I mean, definitely. I mean, relating to our previous conversation, this is exactly the sort of waiver claim that we would like Michael Elias to do more of. I'm definitely excited by Mateo. I'm excited that he is such a versatile player that he could play multiple positions. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the fact that he was a top 100 prospect, he was in the Padres organization, and there's not a lot of, I mean, you have to be really good to be a starter on the San Diego Padres. And I feel like we might have found something here just because I feel like he probably was not given an opportunity, and he seems to me to be one of the guys that if you give this guy an opportunity that he can seize it and be really good. And I don't know, but the fact that he was a top 100 prospect, there's a lot of talent that he has. And I have a feeling that on this Orioles team or the Orioles team next season, I feel like there's a legitimate chance he could start for us. Even if he doesn't play second base every day or something like that, he could make his way into the lineup almost every day.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no reason he shouldn't be in the lineup every day unless he's hurt or something. That's the big negative on him is he does not have any options left. So he can't go down and figure it out because another team is probably going to claim him too, just for what you just said. He's got the skill set that's interesting. He can play a bunch of positions. Why would you not claim him? At least see what he can do.
But it's like a perfect situation for us because I mean, how bad do you have to be for you not? I mean, you could be up here and be really bad for the Orioles, and we're not too pressed about sending you down. Like you can hang around for a while and be bad.
Well, and he's been good so far. I mean, in his first 9 games, he's 10 for 35 with 4 doubles, a triple. He's stolen 3 bases. He's got a 763 OPS. You know, like pretty good. And if you're, you know, that's like about a league average hitter while being super fast and probably playing decent defense, maybe above average defense. I'm not sure. It's such a small sample size, but yeah,
it's
play him.
It's slightly reminiscent of the Keon Broxton. You know, he was another speed power combo guy. But Mateo, I think definitely has more upside, it seems like.
And Broxton hit that absolute bomb of a home run.
485 feet in Coors Field, yeah.
And then was absolutely completely terrible after that. But it was a fun first at bat.
No, I will say we've said a lot of positive stuff about Mateo. The thing that should be noted is in his time in the MLB, he has over a 30% strikeout rate and a 2% walk rate. So, you know,
that's the problem.
This is not a complete product right here. And, you know, we're talking about him in a lot of good ways, but he definitely needs to like develop a little bit of plate discipline. You know, we've seen some good things in these first couple games, but the body of work at the major league level is one that did leave him to be DFA'd by the Padres. So, you know,
absolutely. And he's yet to walk as an Oriole.
There you go.
So, you know, that unless he walked today, which he did not. So
surprise.
that's the negative too. The no options, and he does not take pitches. So yeah.
Right. And it's kind of a tough thing because you don't want him to give up his power, of course, and which the strikeouts.
He hasn't hit a home run either, though.
Right. No, but what I'm saying is it's debatable whether you want him to just turn into like a slap hitter guy. Like that might not be the best thing for him, right? So, or a straight contact hitter, right? So saying, hey, don't worry about hitting home runs, just get on base. That's kind of a big step from like, hey, we're gonna really try to change your swing here, and we're gonna do something about this. So
yeah, I don't think
Orioles might not be ready to do that yet.
And like, if we're realistic with it, it's, you know, he's not going to be probably an everyday player on the next really, really good Orioles team, but he could be a contributor in some way, and that's still a positive. All right, a couple other quick notes. Ryan Mountcastle is on the IL right now with concussion-like symptoms, or he has a concussion. I'm not entirely sure. Bit of a bummer, a little bit worrisome, but hopefully he'll be back here directly. Bruce Zimmerman, I was going to call him Jordan Zimmerman, is on the 60-day IL now because he sprained his ankle in the training room. He was supposed to start today, Sunday the 15th, after a lengthy rehab. And instead he did not because he got hurt in conditioning workouts, which is just very 2021 Orioles.
We got treated to another Keegan Aiken special. In the meantime, Aiken
was better. He was bad in the first inning, but got it together for 4 innings, so that's nice.
Okay, but I mean, like, it's a 9 ERA. I think it was 4 runs in 4 innings, if I remember right.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, it's not good. It's not good.
So, yeah,
but it was better than what he did the last time he pitched.
It's also
a Keegan Aiken special.
Yeah,
it's also on a curve for this Oriole rotation in Fenway. Oh no,
it was Fenway. Yeah.
In Fenway. You know, so against the Red Sox. So there's a giant curve here we're looking at.
That's true. Kind of big news. Adam Plutko, who was just phenomenal earlier in the season, has been DFA'd. And I think, Eli, you are especially kind of a little upset or miffed about the DFA of Plutko. Do you care to share that?
Yeah, I don't know. Plutko, like, he was really struggling. And don't get me wrong, I get that. But the entire rest of the team is really struggling right now. And the way I said it in our group chat was, if everybody's going to give up 2 runs per inning out of the bullpen, keep the guy that will give up 2 runs per inning, and he'll at least do it for 2 or 3 innings. You know,
Right.
it's like whatever we throw out there right now is going to be an absolute travesty, and he just provides the length. And unless like we're going to call up somebody from AAA who also has that length and has that ability, I think this is a bad move. You know, I don't know. Yeah, we threw Connor Wade in there, and he was coming into the game with a 32.4 ERA, and like that was in one outing. Don't get me wrong, but it's still just you know like we're not getting an upgrade in any way, shape, or form. So and Plutko has the ability to throw a lot of pitches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think to add to that,
for the real quick, for those who can't see, I'm like raising my arms up in the air because I'm like, I don't know. This is what we got. This is where I am in life. But yeah.
yeah, I just feel like, you know, Plutko at least is a guy who has a track record of being successful, you know, even in this year. So it wouldn't take necessarily a whole lot for him to refine himself. I mean, it's amazing his arm hasn't fallen off with how much the Orioles have thrown him this year. So exactly, I think it's a kind of a situation where the Orioles were just using him as a sacrificial lamb. Hey, we're gonna overwork you, and then we'll if you start pitching poorly, we'll let you go.
Yeah.
And that kind of sucks.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
does suck.
Plutko had no options left. He was arbitration eligible after this year. They were not going to offer him arbitration, you know, whereas now Connor Wade's up. He did throw 2 scoreless innings today. Again, small sample size. He's got 3 options left. He's 29. The guy will probably never see arbitration in his life. You know, it's just kind of the reality of the Orioles pitching situation. They are shuffling arms. I will say the one guy that's kind of come out of all this that I'm a little bit intrigued by now is Deplan. Is that how you say it?
Yeah. Diplon.
God damn it.
There's okay. For everybody listening, there's never the sound eh. That's never a thing in Spanish.
Diplon.
Diplon.
I took French, so
well, it shows.
And they say Deplan as well, so that was bad too.
So you're just super American.
I just can't read. Yeah. But Deplan, whatever. He's been pretty good, and I'm intrigued by it. And he's got how many innings now has he pitched? He's pitched 6 1/3 inning. I think I saw Rock Kabako tweet something like he's the first Orioles pitcher to like have 4 scoreless outings to begin his career or something. So like pretty cool. So maybe we found something there, folks. That's a positive.
Yeah, he's been great.
Other news: Adley Rutschman, although we discussed he may never go to AAA, immediately was promoted to AAA Norfolk, which is good. That's good. Are we excited about that?
We've had a ridiculous history of that. I think on the same podcast you talked about Pat Valleca, and he was immediately released. Oh no, it was the one before that because we'd be talking about it. But you had said like, yeah, I really don't think Pat Valleca's on this team next year, and then the next day, boom, Pat Valleca DFA'd. You know? Now
Pat Valleca is with Norfolk now. He's a teammate of Adley Rutschman, so he could be back. Who knows?
But yeah, we've called a couple.
But yeah, good for Adley. He will probably now. I'll say this: he will not be in Baltimore this year. He will not be promoted to the big leagues this year. I think that's fair.
He'll go to Norfolk and put up a 900 OPS and at least and crush it.
All he did in his first game was go 2 for 4, a double, an RBI, and catch 9 shutout innings with 1 hit.
Yeah, and Dean Kramer looked pretty good when he pitched with him. I think Kyle Bradish had a nice outing. So there's some secret sauce with Adley Rutschman, I think.
I think people like Adley.
Yeah. Other news, Connor Green was DFA'd, another favorite of yours, Eli.
Yeah, well.
Bites the dust.
He became less and less favorited as the season went on.
Now, the Dodgers did claim him, and he's on their 40-man now, so that's intriguing.
Yeah,
I'm sure he's excited about that.
Yeah, I can't
getting
wait
out
to
of
see him in the
Baltimore to be
pitching against us.
But good luck to Connor. He had a good fastball, but left it in the middle of the plate a whole lot, which was not great. And then we already noted the Orioles are in the midst of an 11-game losing streak, which is a real bummer. All right, silver lining of the week. Jesse, do you want to take these? Because you're really passionate about both of the silver linings this week.
Sure. So it's kind of funny we're doing this silver lining segment today, but Cedric Mullins put up an amazing 20-game hit streak, and unfortunately on Sunday it was snapped against Eduardo Rodriguez and the Boston Red Sox. He went 0 for 5, but nonetheless, 20-game hit streak is no joke. That's not a 6-game hit streak, or that's 20 games, which is very impressive, I think.
And you said it was the first one of that kind for the Orioles since 2012. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's that. And then Anthony Santander. We had a discussion a few weeks ago about him and how much he was struggling. And it seems like he's starting to turn a corner over the past 7 games. He's hitting over 350, has over a 1200 OPS. He hit like 4 home runs in a very short period of time at one point this week.
In 3 games, yeah.
He looks really good right now. So that's really encouraging, and I'm excited for him, and I like him a lot. I still have belief that he's going to be a good player for us. So it's exciting.
I think if he gets any kind of hot at the end of this year and continues,
going
this,
to get
he is
traded.
traded. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
it's definitely possible just because of the outfield depth that we have, but
the depth in the outfield is falling apart.
It really is. Austin Hayes cannot hit right-handed pitching.
And Yusniel Diaz is having a rough year.
Diaz is
that's true.
Always hurt. So
Robert Newstrom is going to be the next big
thing. Why are you so convinced he'll get traded?
Well, he was on the trade block last year, and he was a Super 2 guy, so he got arbitration last year.
Right.
So he's going to get arbitration again this year. And I don't think the Orioles seem to expect him to be like the kind of contributor that you really want to be your everyday right fielder. And I just think he's going to be gone. Also, Colton Cowser's in the system. Heston Kjerstad, if he gets healthy, is in the system. Like, those are 2 guys I think you expect to have bigger upside. And if Cowser, I think, is going to go fast. And if Kjerstad gets healthy, I think he's going to go fast. And I think What?
Go ahead. I was just saying those are the guys I was thinking of when I made the depth comment. Yeah.
But it's tough to say a guy that's in Delmarva and a guy that's never played a professional baseball game.
Right, for sure.
The thing that I will throw out is we were at the beginning of the season lauding the Orioles' depth with Hayes, Mountcastle, Stewart, and Santander. So we have, I don't know, Mountcastle is not a viable outfielder. Stewart is not a viable major league hitter. Hayes can't hit righties. So thank goodness Cedric Mullins has come up, because the Orioles outfield depth that we used to be so excited about is not worth being excited about.
Right. Absolutely. All right, let's get to Oriole of the Week. I did not write down who the Oriole of the Week last week was, but you know what I can do to find that out is I can check our Instagram DMs, because somebody DM me the answer, and you can too. You can DM us the answer. Last week's answer was Boog Powell. That's who it was. Thank you, Brady, for the DM.
Every week.
If you care to play along, you can follow Brady's lead and DM us who you believe is the Oriole of the Week. We give you 3 facts about a current or former Orioles player, and then you just get to guess who it is. The first fact about this week's player is that they were a Rule 5 draft pick in 2011.
They are Nick Markakis's brother-in-law.
During his time with the Orioles, he played every position on the field except catcher and center field.
Here we go. Jesse, what?
He was the emergency catcher, though.
That's true.
Wow, giving him 4 facts.
Yeah, and another
we just give out facts now.
Yeah, exactly. But
okay.
he was the emergency catcher for the Orioles. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Free facts. Come get them at the warehouse pod. No, I will also qualify that when we say every position, we do mean that he did pitch.
Yes. Yep. That is all inclusive. Yeah. Now, did he DH ever? I don't know. Probably.
Ooh, that's a good question.
He probably did. Those were the Buck Showalter teams. I'm sure he would DH sometime.
All right, start looking it up. I'll start looking it up.
Okay.
you just keep talking, keep the folks entertained.
Okay.
And I'll jump back in a minute.
Thank you. I'll vamp for a bit. But yeah, that is the Oriole of the week. Next week, we're going to talk some more Orioles baseball because that's what this show is about, is Orioles baseball. And they've got another tough stretch. I think the Orioles have the toughest strength of schedule for the remainder of the season out of any team in baseball. Now, part of that is we don't get to play the Orioles, so that helps. But they've got 4 at Tampa Bay next week. And then they come back to Camden Yards and host the Atlanta Braves for 3. That sounds a lot like 7 losses. Jess, what do you think?
Yeah, right about there. I mean, I would say the sweep by Tampa has to be almost definite. I guess maybe we could take a game from Atlanta, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not feeling super optimistic. A team that's going to win over 100 games in Tampa, and then Atlanta's clawing for its playoff lives in the NL East. It's going to be rough.
Yeah. Well, that's a definite. I mean, if we come back and the Orioles won, 3 games, I mean, that should be the first story we talk about. Yeah.
Raise the pennant basically for that. Eli, did you find anything?
Yeah.
I'm back.
You're back.
And I realized that I have no means of cross-referencing like the positions he played with whether he did it with the Orioles.
Oh, I see.
So he has 5 career at-bats as a DH. So
5, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think it probably happened at some point.
Okay.
He also, this is something that could have happened. He does have 2 at-bats as a pinch hitter for a DH.
Do we count that?
I think so. I mean, he played the position.
Yeah, he did. That's true.
Okay, so we're going to say he did DH.
Who was the DH that he pinch hit for? Unless they were hurt. Maybe they were hurt.
I don't know.
Pedro Alvarez.
I was going to say this is the DH. Never mind. Just cut that. Sorry. Never mind.
This is never mind.
Yeah.
I'm seeing in 2013, he started 3 games as the DH for the Baltimore Orioles. Incredible.
Where did you find that?
On Baseball Reference.
What?
That's a very Buck Showalter thing to do, to DH this guy.
Yeah,
he was a favorite.
Yeah, he was.
We've given an awful lot of context on this guy.
Did we say his name?
Yeah, we must have. No, we didn't.
Okay.
All right, well, let's just stop it there.
Okay, well, we got to tell the folks that they can follow us on social media. I don't know if they know about that. You can follow us at The Warehouse Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can go over on YouTube and you can subscribe to us there. Please do that. I do post these as a video. It's not always got our faces on there, but if you like to use YouTube as your podcast medium, check that out. You can also subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts, we should be there. If you're able to, please give us a rating and a review. A 5-star review would be awesome so we can reach as many Orioles and baseball fans as possible. We would really appreciate it. And I think that's it. Jesse, do you want to tell the folks where you are on social?
Yeah, people can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Juggernaut8678.
Cool. And Eli, how about you?
I'm on Twitter at Elijah Ginsburg.
Nice. And I am on Twitter and Instagram at _Ty Young, as well as over at CamdenChat.com. Check it out. All right, boys. Well, I think that's all we got. Good episode. Hopefully we get to talk about a couple more Orioles wins next week, because I
really doubt it.
I don't think they won any games since our last podcast. So that's pretty fun. All right. Thank you so much for listening to the Warehouse Podcast. Until next time, I'm Tyler.
I'm Jesse.
And I'm Eli.